Right, so here we go. We're back to the elm again now. Now we can see that we've got all the roots out. Got a bit of interest. Now, what's going on down here? Let's, we've got some root here. Yep, got plenty of root. There. Now, all of that from there, pretty much down to there, we don't need. All this thick root here, you can see it's just been growing round and round and round, and really should have been pruned back a long time ago. Yeah, I mean initially it might have a little bit of a shock, it might stop growing for a little bit. But this particular tree is very good at being pruned and root pruned, it takes it very well. Some trees you have to be a bit more careful with. And what I always say to people when they're starting out and doing something like this is to, if you're not sure, just be on the safe side. So if you were to come across this sort of situation, what I would suggest is, if you haven't got anybody that you can ask for help, I would just probably play it on the safe side. Remove some of the big roots, but maybe leave some of it and only prune it back sort of half. And then you'd have to very carefully plant it into a bigger pot, let it grow on a little bit, and maybe prune it back a bit more next year. So hopefully, not many trees. I have seen trees like this before. I've actually seen them well. I've seen a pine tree once that a lady had grown from seed. She brought back from Mexico or somewhere like that, grown it from seed. It was in the same pot for 16, 20 years, something like that. She brought it in, never repotted it, and the roots were actually about 10 feet long. So that took quite a long time to get that sorted out. So let's do a bit of a haircut here. Now, what we're going to do is a little bit of a trim. A lot of people do think that it's the pruning of the roots which keep the tree small, but it's not. It's the pruning of the top of the tree, the branches, constant pruning and training around here that will keep the tree the size that you want it to be. The pruning of the roots is there just to keep the tree nice and healthy, to keep new feeder roots coming through so that they can absorb all the moisture and the goodness from the soil. We've got a big chunky one there. We'll take him back a bit more. But you can see, even though I've taken off all of this, there's still a lot of small root here, fibrous root around. So there's still quite a lot in there that can actually absorb the goodness. It's a little bit scruffy still. And we can see now that we're getting a bit more shape around here. It's a little bit grubby though, so I think what we'll do, we'll give them a little bit of a wash. And it is one of those things that really you should only take off no more than a third of the root ball. Now obviously we've taken off quite a lot more than this time, but I can see I've still got a lot of root around there, and this being a Chinese elm can actually recover from that quite quickly. But if you're not sure, don't take off too much. Even if you just have to do a bit the following year and gradually reduce it down. So it's better to do it that way. I've still got a lot of root on there, so this one's going to be fine. Now I'm going to give him a clean up. So what I've done, I've got a bowl of water down here. I've got a little nylon brush here. It's a great shape for getting right in there. Clean them off so that we can see those roots. Sometimes on bigger trees what we do is actually just take them out, give them a good hosing off, wash off all the soil. Not all of the soil, but the soil around the roots, around the start of the tree here. So we've got some roots sort of curling over around here, some small sticky up ones here. I wouldn't say they look particularly, there's a bit of character going on there, but I wouldn't say they look particularly attractive at the moment. So by giving it a clean up, we can actually see if there's anything there that we can work on, small roots that we can grow, and any roots that might sort of want to come out because they don't look brilliant. The one that goes over what it does, your eye will come up here, come to there, and then that's like a gate. It stops you. And then you carry on up here. So this one that crosses over, I'm going to take out. So I'm going to, with big scissors, and hopefully it will just come away. And again, that's the sort of thing that if you're not sure about, you could leave that in till next year. So I wouldn't do too much all in one go. Sometimes you'll have several roots like that. Just a little bit at a time. Right, that looks a bit better. So you've got the horticultural side of keeping it healthy, make sure the roots are growing nicely and the tree's in good condition. But you've also got the artistic side. And that, I suppose, is the difficult bit to really sort of get to grips with. And it's all about copying nature. It's all about mimicking trees that we see growing in the wild, whether they're growing out just in a field somewhere that we would see as we walk around, growing on a hilltop, growing on a mountain top, rock face, anywhere that you'll find trees, you can go and you can look at them and copy them, try to figure out why they've grown in certain ways, why they've grown that shape, what's happened to them. It's a fantastic way of learning about trees. And while you're learning about trees, you learn about nature. Right, back to our roots. Now I've cleaned up around here, so they're all shiny. We've got some nice roots coming out around there. Obviously we've got this nice one here we talked about. We've got nothing on this side. We've got a few crisscrossy roots here, and I think down there, underneath there, there's a root on this side, and it comes down, it goes underneath these roots, and it comes out under there. So there's a nice curve inside there that we can't see at the moment. However, I'm not going to do any more work on this because we've taken off a lot of roots, and I don't want to harm the tree. So I'm going to leave that for another time. But I know it's there, so next time I come to repot, I can do more work around this side, take off a bit more of the smaller roots to expose that nice big root in there. So I've got two main roots coming up and giving me a nice curve in there. So I'm not going to go any further on that now. And I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but that is the front of the tree, the way it's pruned now, because we can see most of the trunk line. If I turn it round, it's very bushy. We can see this bit of the trunk, but we can't see much of the inside of the tree. I turn it back. Okay. It's the trunk that gives it power and shape, and then the rest of it, the sort of canopy, fills in the top of it. It's a bit like this bit here is the icing on the cake, really. So now we need a pot. Let's see what we've got. So what we're going to try and do is to match this tree up with a nice new pot. And the tree and the pot need to be in harmony together. And I always think if you look at a bonsai and the first thing you see is the pot, then it's the wrong pot. If the first thing you look at is the tree, then it's still the wrong pot. Because a bonsai is the tree and the pot together, and they must look good together. So the first thing you need to look at is the whole thing, the bonsai. And then you might look at the tree or the pot. Now, let's have a look. We'll pop it in there. And just to get a bit of an idea. All right. Size-wise, not too bad. That's not too bad at all, that one. Look of the tree. I'll pop it in a completely different one. Colour, shape, size, they all influence the tree. So it looks completely different. This one, what do you think of that one? Right, much too big. So we can eliminate that one straight away. I've got any others? What about that one? I quite like that one. Sometimes a pot like this can make a bit of a statement as well. Some nice curves on it. Sometimes a pot with nice curves can flow in with the curves on the tree. Right, so just pop the tree over there for a minute. Now in here, you can see we've got 2 holes. Very important to have good drainage. The bigger the pot, normally the bigger the holes or the more holes you'll have around it. We are going to cover these holes with a bit of mesh, otherwise what happens is the soil just falls through the bottom. The other thing about the pots are that this is obviously a glazed one, but make sure you have a pot which is never glazed on the inside here. Got a little bit of glazing around on the top here, that's fine. But what we need is a nice sort of rough finish in here so that the roots can grip onto it, otherwise it's a bit slippery and sometimes the tree can wobble around in that as it's growing.